Okay, this is January 15th. It is 7 p.m., well, 7:02 to be precise. This is 2025, and we are doing the Sahavas for everyone and the first of a series of the 12 ways of realizing me. If I share my screen, well, before I do my sharing of the screen, let's do a check-in. And Nazan is going to type in the chat, but just share your name for those who don't know you and where you're coming in from, where you're calling in from. I'll start. I'm Laurent. I'm calling in from Charleston, South Carolina. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, I'm Diane Ullman.
Terry Levine.
And we are in the Los Angeles area, specifically Venice Beach, specifically just a few miles from the fires.
Staying safe, I hope.
Trying.
Staying safe.
White knuckling onto his demand.
Yeah, well, we're praying for you.
Thanks.
Nazan wrote that she lives in Austin, Texas. And Rehan, you want to say?
Jai Baba. My name is Rehan. I live in Columbia, South Carolina.
Nice. We'll have to get together with you. You're not too far from us.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were in Charleston. For some reason, I thought you were still in Wilmington.
Well, we moved from Wilmington to Asheville, and then from Asheville to here. Right before that hurricane hit Asheville. So Baba's grace.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Got us out of there. So now I can share my screen, right? So let's try this. If I go here, can you see this slide?
Yes.
So I decided to do a series where each month we'd focus on one of Baba's 12 ways of realizing me. And this one says longing. If you experience that same longing and thirst for union with me, as one who has been lying for days in the hot sun of the Sahara experiences the longing for water, then you will realize me. And I have a link here to all the 12 ways of realizing me. But before all that, I just wanted to say I brought 3 things to share, and I can go last. So, but does anybody have a thought or bring anything that they'd like to share about longing with Mayor Baba? And of course, I have plenty of things to say, but I don't like to be the one taking up all the airtime over here. So anybody have initial thoughts and feelings about longing with Mayor Baba? Yep. Go ahead. You got to come off mute.
I think longing, like wanting him in my life.
Mhm.
I was not a person of faith growing up. I was born Jewish. I was raised Jewish. I was culturally and digestively very proud of my Jewish background. And I ran into Terry, fell in love, and 36 years later, we're still rocking and rolling, but
Thank you, Baba.
she was a spiritual seeker. And so I took the ride with her. And at first it was Wiccan and goddess oriented. We had all sorts of goddesses all around. And then we got turned on to Baba, Terry in 2012. And then we went to India in 2013. I was always an agnostic in my way of presenting, because it was could be, could not be. I didn't know. I didn't have any connection. So when I got to Mehrabad, and I only went to be supportive of Terry, he took me. And it has been, the last decade has been me searching for my own spirituality, my own connection. My default is to go to my brain. So I long for that connection with him, where I turn worry over, my angst over, my thinking, my control. So that's a huge longing. And man, we have been praying for Baba to calm these winds down. over
Yeah.
the 4 hours. And so far, knock on wood, he's limited. It's intense in some areas and got the news on 24/7 in the background with no sound.
Right.
See if there's anything we need to know.
Yeah, right. Well, that's a lot. Thank you for sharing all that. I have a clarifying question, if I may. You said when you went to Maribad, Baba took someone?
Took my heart,
Took your heart.
took my heart.
That's a big deal.
Well, it
He's known as the
kind of changed my life.
he's known as the thief of hearts. He's pretty well known for that.
Yeah, there's a new playing deck card. Not the
Mhm.
queen, not the king, but the stealer of hearts.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all that. That's incredible.
You know what I'm saying?
I just want to honor what Naz wrote since she's got pneumonia, I think, something like that.
And then Terry will jump
Yeah.
in.
Okay. Naz said, I'm originally from Turkey, Istanbul. I long for the quiet mind that I experienced during Amirtithi in 1988. Wow. Beautiful. Terry, did you want to say a few words? And then Rehan? You're on mute.
Sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
noticing that I feel during this time, I'm feeling very anxious. The fires are in the area where I worked for 40 years.
Mhm.
And the building I worked in 35 of those years is burnt to the ground.
Wow.
And I've treated in the Pacific Palisade thousands of people over the years. And, you know, I don't even know where all those houses are. I retired 6 months ago. And, but I go up to get my teeth worked on, and my boss and I are still really good friends. And all of a sudden this happened. And even though I'm holding on to Bubba's diamond with both hands, my head is working overtime and I'm feeling so anxious inside that I'm literally vibrating. I feel myself vibrating, and I keep going in the other room and I sit down on the mat and and I sit and meditate with Bubba, and he'll come in, and then I lose it again because I'm very sensitive. And Daddy, that's you. And I feel it inside my body. It's not even something that I'm aware of. Like I talked about it in Artie last night, and they said how, like they're praying for us, and, how can we help you? And what can help you is what they said. And I said, drugs and alcohol. It's
Right.
a lot. It's just a lot to know that a whole place that it was my second home, really.
Yeah. Well,
It's gone.
considering the circumstances, it's not. There's nothing to be ashamed of to feel anxious under your circumstances.
I don't feel ashamed. I know that in a few weeks, when more is resolved, that I'll rise above it. And I can't ever see it like Baba sees it, but I'll know that it's for a reason. And I just don't know what the reason is. And I have to let go. But I
Yeah.
can't, for some reason, I can't be there yet.
Well, it's a spiritual path. I tell people this all the time. It's not a spiritual light switch. It's not an on or an off. It's a spiritual path. It's gradual. It's a process, right?
Mhm.
And I think that you talked about surrender also. It is a bunch of different surrenders going on there, right? Lots of
Yeah.
different kinds of surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rehan, did you want to share?
What a wonderful segue. So yeah, I was thinking about longing and just sitting with that word, and another word kept coming up, and that was surrenderance. Because I think they do go hand in hand. And I was thinking about longing and surrenderance, and at first I was thinking, is surrenderance the gift Baba gives us for longing? That was kind of the question I was asking. And read in some of the Baba literature in Lord Meher, and there were some passages that kind of indicated the opposite, that longing was actually the gift of the master, and that surrenderance was our responsibility. And are we sharing readings?
Yes, and you can share whatever you want, but yes, readings and. So don't be
Okay.
limited to readings. You can share anything here.
Yeah, so I kind of took this longing and surrenderance and was looking at some quotations that maybe I could bring tonight. And there's a
Yeah.
lovely Baba quotation included in one of Mani's family letters
Please share
from
it.
December 1966. And in the beginning, I'm not going to share the whole letter because it's a longer one. But in December 1966, I don't know if anyone knows about the family letters, but the family letters began in December 1952. No, 56, December 1956, with Baba's crash in Satara in India. And so in this letter in December of 1966, Mani is reflecting on 10 years of family letters and all the words that have piled up. She writes, I couldn't ever hope to tackle the mountain of words made by the family letters over the years, but I do look in wonder at this wordy mountain and know it would be a rubble heap were it not held together by the might of Baba's love, were it not covered with the tender grass of his mercy and bearing the life-giving springs of his words. As Baba told us, only words that proceed from the source of truth have real meaning. Direct from the source comes the following words. The message was specifically dictated by beloved Baba for his lovers to receive through this family letter. And this is Baba's words. Desires and longings are the root cause of all suffering. The only real desire is to see God, and the only real longing is to become one with God. This real desire and longing frees one from the bondage of birth and death. Other desires and longings bind one with ignorance. To desire the real desire and to long for the real longing, you need my grace. And you cannot have that until you surrender all other desires and longings to me. Your love for me will help you to surrender these desires and longings. And my love for you will help you to desire the real desire and long for the real longing, which are by my grace.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, he kind of puts it all together with a bow on it, doesn't he?
As only Mayor Baba can.
It's incredible, incredible quote. Well, I can totally relate to that. I could share a few things I wanted to share. I've been waiting for the right spot. Is it okay for me to share at this point?
Yeah.
Or did you want to share more about that, what you just read?
No, I didn't really have any more comments after that.
Okay, so it may be a good time for me to say something. When I was thinking about sharing about longing, I contemplated my own path. I came to Baba in 1986. So the path that I've been on since 86, in the beginning, I did have a lot of intense longing, but the style of the longing was more like transcending this experience and going to Baba. And like, even just in the car contemplating it today, I've noticed that my whole relationship with Baba has shifted over the years. And it's no longer that kind of longing to transcend this and go there. It's more like there's only here. So it's more like longing to bring Baba more and more into the present moment. And then the struggle I have is, but I'm really enjoying my life. So like, I'm really enjoying sitting with Vanessa in front of the fireplace with the wood crackling and holding a glass of wine with my feet up and just being in the present moment with my life with Vanessa. And that's different than longing for Baba. So I'm having this kind of tug of war of, I've never enjoyed my life as much as I enjoy it today. And yet I've also come to a certain like different level of maturity in my relationship with Baba. So it's very, very different than how I started with Baba. And the story is not over. It's just, I feel like it's kind of this ebb and flow, and it's not a static thing. It's not like an up and to the right line. It's nothing like that. It's very organic, and there's good days and bad days. And some days I really feel longing for Baba. Some days I'm like, well, I didn't think about Baba as much today as I maybe would have liked to, but I'm really enjoying my life. So it's very unusual for me. And I see Nazan is present on the camera. Thanks for joining, Nazan. So that's what I wanted to share. I wanted to be more honest about, for me, like that journey, that it's a journey in longing. It's not static. That was kind of the gist of it. And my wife just joined. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi.
So we're just talking about longing with Mayor Baba, and anybody can share anything. And we just heard some beautiful things. Did you bring something to share?
I did. It's kind of a long quote, so if anybody else has anything.
Well, Rehan had a long one too, so you're right in line.
I guess that's how it is, right? Longing is just a long process. So there's long quotes. Um, this one, it's funny. I had probably heard sections of it, but it's really pretty. It's the Longing, Patience, and Rock-like Faith by Mayor Baba. And I don't know if you can see on my phone. I guess you can't see it. It's kind of that pink.
It looks like light.
Okay. Whoa. So I read it to Laurent in the car because I wanted to kind of digest it before I read it to you all. But it was really beautiful. And it started with I guess coming into what that master does for us, right? So here it says, before realization, the veil must be torn away and the mind must die. It is due to this veil that every individual mind functions in the gross and subtle bodies. Removing the veil would separate the gross from the subtle. When that occurs in the subtle state, you would be able to see internal things as much as with as much clarity as you see gross objects. When the gross is separated from the subtle, it is like killing two birds with the one stone. But the veil must be ripped off. Though the veil is thin, at the same time it is very strong. It cannot be slit easily, but it can be rent in an instant by a perfect master. If it is torn, the consciousness of the soul at once enters the first plane. But progress comes to a halt at the first plane if the rent in the veil is made through one's own efforts, or with the help of a yogi or a saint or an imperfect guru. Seekers advance of their own, but it is ultimately useless as they become inevitably entrapped. If a perfect master is there to help, he would not tear the veil unless the aspirant is fully ready. Then the master would take him straight to the goal. And it says here that only a Sadguru can free one from the cage of illusion, but 3 conditions are required. And those 3 conditions are longing, patience, and rock-like faith. And of course, those are not popular, you know, I think on the spiritual path, it's really difficult to have longing, patience, and rock-like faith because of all the kind of trials and tribulations that we go through. I mean, that rock-like faith is, I think that's what we need to hold on to as Daman. Nothing is gained without longing. This is all that is needed, but the aspirant should remain restless. For instance, if a man is stung by a scorpion, he constantly thinks of how to overcome the burning, throbbing pain. He forgets about eating, drinking, and worldly pursuits. He forgets everything and has only one thought: how to make this pain subside. In the same way, there should be continual longing to be one with God. There should be no other thought except this: I must be one with God today, immediately, this moment. The mind and heart must be devoid of any other thought. Well, I am not there yet. Even though many years of suffering may pass, patience should never be forsaken. At first, the longing is intense, but gradually it lessens and cools down. This should not be the case. Patience must not be lost. It must be persistent. In the beginning, there is great enthusiasm, and a person is convinced he will soon gain realization. But with the passing of time, his enthusiasm wanes. A person may be purposely snared by the master and then thrown out. I too do such things. But a wise man silently puts up with everything that comes from the master. One who is unwise becomes impatient and starts grumbling. But masters always coax the aspirant along and gradually give him a little push on the path. Masters always behave like this. It is their nature. Crossing the path is like a pulling and pushing tug-of-war, but a wise man does not act in this way. A smart bird that is caught in the trap does not flap its wings to free itself. It remains quiet and unflustered, waiting for an opportunity to escape. An inexperienced bird flutters and squirms, becoming frustrated and injuring itself or more. Think how patient Hafiz remained to have endured the treatment of his master for 40 years. Your steadfastness and determination should be like a steady flow of castor oil when poured. And that is from Tears of Joy, page 29 to 30, and it was edited by Anna Condal.
It's amazing. It's
Mhm.
absolutely amazing. Would it be okay if I shared something as a segue, or did you want to follow up
No,
on
go
that?
ahead. Yeah, I was just, I said a little bit in there, but we can.
Well, I'm going to just share this as a segue. Can you hear me okay? This is from Hafez. I trace the shape of your absence in the spaces where your laughter used to linger, and let the echoes of you fill the hollow hours. Isn't that beautiful?
What shows you where his consciousness was.
I know. And so
Can you say it
that's
again
where,
one more time?
yeah. And I just want to follow up on the quote from Vanessa. Hafez had to, well, he didn't have to. Hafez chose to dedicate himself to his master, Attar, for 40 years before Attar gave him God realization. And so I think this quote is really fascinating. I trace the shape of your absence in the spaces where your laughter used to linger, and let the echoes of you fill the hollow hours. I mean, I really feel that one personally. I find it very, very difficult to talk about longing personally, because like Hafiz, unless I start writing poems, I sound very like it doesn't do it justice. It's like trying to share a picture of the moon that you just took with somebody, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and you know what the moon looks like, and it doesn't look anything like the photo on your phone. But that's how I feel when I'm talking about longing. I feel like I'm sharing pictures of the moon. Um, who wants to share next?
I had an experience of longing that, like in my mind, I had this imagination that my longing would gradually grow, and then I would, naturally be feeling more and more absorbed in Baba. But that really hasn't been the case. Like I think, I get involved in doing my responsibilities and my duties, and I'm not always keeping Baba in my mind on the forefront, although, I try to. I mean, I do catch myself sometimes repeating Baba's name, and I don't even know how I start or how I stop. It just comes and it goes. It's like a flow. But I did go to India. It was a couple years ago now. And I hadn't been there in 4 years because of COVID, so I was overdue for a visit. And I unexpectedly got opened up to experience a longing for being with the divine beloved, in a way that it made me feel like I was very, very thirsty and I needed to quench my thirst. And that's the only way I could describe it. And so I remember calling up Laurent and I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening here, but I need to stay longer. I need to stay in Mehrabad. And of course, every time I go to India, I want to stay longer, but this was really like, it felt like a desperateness, and maybe a restlessness is accurate from what we read. The restlessness was very apparent. Like I felt it. And so, but being a mother, I had lots of things juggling back in the West. So I came back and Laurent was here, and I remember feeling like it was too soon. Like I needed to be with my beloved just a little bit longer. And I just ended up sobbing and sobbing and sobbing when I came back. And I thought, well, okay, well, this will end and this will be, I'll get over this. And it was like 3 months of daily sobbing. And that's when I realized, I think, over the years of loving Baba, like like his guiding me and bringing me closer to him has been so sweet and almost, how would you put it? It's almost like he's been secretly drawing me so close, but that I didn't know, and then when I end up in Mehrabad, he gives me that experience of understanding like just how deeply I am longing for him. And so I felt like I had a glimpse of that thirst that our soul has to be in union with him, but we always can't be in contact. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do my job, like, or whatever I was doing, if I was always in contact with that. I have to be Vanessa and take care of my chores and the kids and the dogs. But yeah, I just wanted to share that sometimes, I think, um, you know, he's working with us in ways, even if it seems like on the mundane level, we're just doing our life, like, just remembering him when we can, and him bringing us closer, and to trust that process, and that, even though I might be more in contact with my back pain today, I'm actually still, very much in love with God, and, keeping him present in my heart, but I'm not experiencing that desperateness, I guess, in every moment.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Incredible. Looks like Diane and Terry are coming off mute.
So bear with me. We're living new ways of looking at things and learning about Mother Nature so much with what's happened the last 9 days here in LA. But I can't help but think about the first few days when the winds were like hurricane style size speed. And these poor fire people were holding the hose with the water coming out and the wind just taking over and scattering it all over, making it totally ineffectual. So I was just thinking as I'm listening to about longing, and I'm thinking about that image, and I'm thinking that the wind is Maya. And we're trying to hold on to this connection we have, direct connection with Baba. But if Maya keeps thwarting us, we're all over the place. I'm all over the place. I don't
It's a
know.
great image. It's a great image. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Jai Baba.
Jay Baba. Um, I think I have a good segue here. Unless Rehan, do you
Well,
have
Vanessa,
something?
I wanted to ask you a question because in your quotation, it just hit me. In your quotation that you read,
Yeah.
it talked about longing for union with God.
Yeah.
I don't think I necessarily long for union with God. I long for the side of God and for like being with God. But I don't know if I've ever really longed for union. I don't know. That's kind of a concept I can't really like grab onto that right now. Union.
Yeah.
Can,
I
Also,
actually, when I was much younger, I never thought of like getting God realization or getting union, or that never was even in my mind. Like it never occurred to me that that would be something that would be like, fulfilling. Like I always thought, well, I could imagine being physically present with Baba, and that might be amazing, but not like the union. I couldn't even conceive of it. And I think that's for me, like the journey has been like to have these little moments where he's like revealing himself. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that is something that I connect with, and I feel fulfilled in when it's these little glimmers of his love or his bliss or whatever. And then so I feel like he's been drawing me in like with these little crumbs to experience the him and his depth and his fullness of being, right? Until I could even understand that or have an experience of it, I wouldn't even know to even want that. You know what I mean? It's like, how would I want bliss if I didn't even know what bliss was, right? It's like if you haven't eaten a mango, like you're not gonna suddenly crave a mango. So I feel like Bob has been working with me on that level, and I think that's why I was so surprised when I went to the tomb and I started having this like depth of longing that I didn't have before. And I can't say that I could articulate it as, oh, I want God realization in that moment. It felt more like I just so desperately wanted to be like, let me think about it. The feeling was that I was in a world that was more real than the world that I'm in now. And so to come back to a world that felt like
who is that?
2D versus something that was 3D was so not fulfilling that I was like, no, I don't want, I felt like I was going down, like when you play shoots and ladders and you finally get to the top and then suddenly it was like, no, and you have to shoot back down that's what it felt like. So, and I think that's in the quote when he was talking about like, I think he referred to like giving, the aspirant, in that tug of war, those little crumbs, right? I think that's what I got with like a crumb to understand.
Probably a good thing the crumbs, or else we might leave our bodies. No.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. With there's quite a bit of the Maya, I guess, right? The wind is blowing constantly.
well, speaking of that, I did see Diane and Terry's hand up, and then I want
Well,
to honor Nazan's comment in the meeting chat, and then I have something to share.
well, I was asking how old you were because I think that as you age, the idea of going to Baba or being one with Baba feels really different than I would have felt when I was younger. So It just is different, it feels different.
Whose age are you asking about?
Rayhan.
Rayhan, how old are you, honey?
I turned 39 in this past December.
Yeah, at 39, for me, everything was possible. I was pregnant with our kid. I mean, it was a different world for me. But now, again, this fire has brought up so much stuff for us. It's ridiculous. And one of the things is maybe moving to the East Coast.
This is being recorded.
I don't care really. And
She
it's
can
not like
put it
we're
on
going
the
to pack
recording.
up and leave tomorrow. And there's a lot of stuff that's going on. But I finally did really give that to Bubba. And I just realized that if he wants it to happen, I'll have the energy to make it happen, everything. I don't have to sit here and be forlorn that I'm not going to have it in me to do this huge move. If it's supposed to happen, I'll have it in me to do it,
Come to Charleston. We have an incredible Baba community. It's
Well,
really incredible.
We're going to Northampton where our kid
Kid
is.
lives.
There's a specific
But
destination.
we'll be closer to you guys for certain. And
But
so
how
that's
nice. I
really
was,
good.
I didn't
Thank
know
you.
there's a good barbecue.
Not good. Not good. It's great.
Great. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I wanted to honor Nazan's comment. She said, union is from Hafez, though, right? I'm not exactly sure what she means, but I think what she might mean, and she can correct me, is that the quote from Hafez, right? Well, so we'd have to go back to Vanessa's reading and see what the word union is from. Is it from Baba or Hafez? But certainly Hafez talks about it, and certainly Baba talks about union. So it's all over the place in Baba's literature. Can I share something in response to what Rayhan was sharing? If I rewind like 10 minutes, I remember something that you shared, Rayhan, which was that your longing, you were very honest and vulnerable to share that your longing wasn't for God realization or union. It was for something different, right? Whatever it is that you're experiencing. And I just wanted to honor that whatever the longing is in relation to Baba is fantastic and wonderful. So I don't think that it needs to be judged as greater or lesser or anything like that. It's just a type of longing. And eventually, according to Baba, if you read God Speaks in Discourses, of course, it all ends in union where you realize that you're really one with the beloved. But there's so many steps and stages before that. And they're all wonderful steps and stages. You're on mute, just so you know.
Yeah. And maybe it's just the word union. I'm not sure. Maybe it was just the word union that threw me off.
Yeah.
But
So
certainly the separation's quite painful, actually.
the opposite of separation is the union.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I have been longing for union.
Maybe you didn't know it. Yeah. There's a really interesting little quote in God Speaks that Baba quotes a poet. I think the poet's name is Oscar. Very unusual little quote early on in God Speaks, but the gist of it was, I'm not going to quote it accurately because I don't have God Speaks handy, but the gist of it was, Oscar says, for so many years I was holding the hem of the garment of my master, following my master and holding tightly to the hem of his garment until the day I realized it was my own garment I was holding. And it, when Baba puts that in God Speaks, that's pretty astonishing because obviously he's giving a nod to this notion that, yeah, of course, in the beginning, it feels like you're following the master and holding on to the master with, white knuckles for all you've got in you, right? For the life of you, until you achieve that union or merging into the beloved, then you realize you are that. I am that, And so I think that is what Baba is talking about when he means union. It's the last stop of the train, but there's so many experiences on the train before the last stop, right? And I like the other one that he said about that. He said, if you're really longing for your beloved, if you're on a train, he used the train analogy. If you're really longing for your beloved and you're taking a train to see your beloved and you know it's a long journey, do you get down every time the train comes to a station and go look for a prostitute to sleep with? No, that would be totally like abhorrent to you because you really long for your beloved. You're not looking for the next thing. You're impatient to be with your beloved, and the train's getting closer and closer, and it's just your journey to the beloved. And I think that was a great analogy because there are people, even in Baba's lifetime, when they didn't get what they wanted for Baba, they'd go to some other master, or they'd go here, or they'd go there, and they would leave Baba or whatever. And this journey with Baba, as far as I can tell, it's not an overnight success. It's not, get down at the next station. It's stay on the train, knowing that the train will eventually arrive. And I've been on long train journeys in India, overnight train journeys, and all kinds of journeys. And it's arduous. It's not comfortable. I mean, it can be. I've been in first class. I've been in air conditioned sleepers. I've also been in terrible situations on trains. And I've had every up, down, and forward, right?
I also had a thought.
Hmm.
You remember, okay, so Erich, served Baba for a lifetime. And towards the end, he longed for another opportunity to love and serve him. And he didn't even want God realization because he just wanted to stay and continue. And so that's like, to me, in the next level of longing. You don't even want out. You don't even want the union. You want to just keep coming back to serve and having that precious time with him and when he's in the avatar form.
Can I share another one? Or does somebody else have something to share? Oh, Nazan said, union also implies complete loss of your personal ego. Yeah. So okay if I share one more? This is one I found. Can you see the screen? Yeah. It says, the woman asked Baba, how can I strive both to achieve things in life materially and also to that which is permanently lasting? Interesting question. Baba explained, it can be done. What does perfection mean if it does not include the material life? It is easy and practical. Lead a worldly life. Attend to all your worldly duties, but for some moments in the day, long for knowing something that is beyond life. And this longing will increase gradually and will make you free and detached from material results. I thought that was an interesting quote.
I really like the idea of being detached from the results. I feel like that is such freedom.
Yeah.
One of my
I mean,
favorite,
if that's the result of longing, then I definitely want more longing.
Diane and Terry were saying something.
so I love watching football and I turn the sound off and I don't care who wins. I just enjoy watching the things that are thought out on a chalkboard and practiced enough that you'll succeed even though you have such resistance trying to make you not succeed. And so I even think I've got her hooked a little bit on it. The violence is not anything that I support or enjoy seeing at all. So that's always a hard one. But not being attached to the score or who wins is kind of incredibly freeing. So I try and say, I know what that feels like. how about if I put that into a relationship context and not care about what turns out? I'll get back to you in a couple decades.
Well, and I've watched a lot of football in my life, and I can say it's some of the most graceful things I've ever seen happen in a football game. It's incredible.
Are you attached to the scores?
Say it again.
Are you are you concerned with the scores and the outcome of the game?
Me personally,
Yes.
I used to be before Baba, I used to bet on football
Oh, okay.
when I was in high school, and I would bet with my friends, and I had a very clever way of betting, and I would win a lot. So I was very concerned with the scores, but nobody had any money. So when I would win, I would get comic books instead of money, and they would bring me their comic books.
All right.
Nazan, I want to honor you also. I know you've got difficulty with your voice. Did you have other things to share that you want to share in the meeting chat? We're happy to hear from you. She's pointing at something. Let me see. Not caring about the material results is also a kind of surrender. You have done your best and leave the results to Baba. You wrote it as questions, but it sounds like you're very clear. I think it is definitely a surrender. And leaving the result to Baba is not a requirement. And here's the thing that I think about that. He said that both surrender and giving him the results is really our gift to him. He said it in no uncertain terms, Rehan, that surrender is the way that we give a gift to the master. I think that's absolutely true. And leaving the result to Baba is obviously very, very difficult to do. And he wants the results. And they really belong to him anyway. So it's like giving him something that already belongs to him. And I think when, in my personal life, when I try to control the results, I just create suffering for myself and others. That's what I experience. I can't seem to stop trying because I have 6 kids, and I have to continually detach from my 6 children. It's very, very difficult, especially with the boys. And so I'm learning, but it's taking me a very long time. Like Diane and Terry were talking about, come back to me in a couple decades, but I'm trying. And I think there's a difference between leaving the results to Baba and not caring about the results. So you can care and leave the results to Baba. I think it's a very delicate thing. So it's like detachment with love, right? Doing one's best and being involved, but not to the point of trying to control. And that's for me very, very tricky. I still care, but I have to trust Baba and I have to trust my children that even if I remove my control, that if they fail or get hurt or whatever, that there's a lesson in it, right? Otherwise, I'm just micromanaging everybody all the time.
I heard a thing that said, I don't know where the quote came from, but it was something like, I might not be happy with what Baba does, but that's what he does. It's the
Right.
card.
Well,
it was a lot more eloquent than what I just said, but I saw a nodding head, so I think.
And the other thing is that our happiness and our comfort aren't really a requirement on the path. So he says, be happy. It's kind of like a command almost, but he doesn't say, I'm going to make you happy. He says, be happy. It's almost like an attitude. And that's the challenge, right? Can you still be happy when everything's burning around you? That's really, really
a challenge. Yeah, I think he likes that challenge too. Don't you?
Well, the real question, Rehan, is, do you like the challenge?
Yeah. I I I like the challenge. I'm hard on myself when I realize that I missed the mark. But uh am excited and celebrate myself when I realize, oh, I handled a situation and didn't step out of my equipoise or give in to my anger or something like that, or if I was able to give something up.
Well, and can I ask you a clarifying question about missing the mark?
You know?
Are you able to forgive yourself when you miss the mark, or do you punish yourself?
Yeah, I think I think that's a lifelong process, forgiveness and self-forgiveness especially. I'm getting better. I'm getting better. Biology told me I was hopeless in that regard.
What do you think that means?
Oh God, I don't know. This was like late in his life, so who knows what he meant by that.
I think
I
you get a
was
little
working with
expensive.
biology at a period in my life where I was very like took things very seriously, and I still do. I still struggle with that.
You said Balji. What did Balji say to you again?
No, he he said I was hopeless. Hopeless. I was hopeless. I always had a face. He hated my face, my resting face. And he said, "Oh, you're hopeless. You're just hopeless." But it was, yeah, I was always thinking. I was always a very deep thinker back in those days. I don't know about now though.
You seem to be a deep thinker now too, to me.
But you smile a lot.
Mhm.
That's more of your resting face.
And you don't look hopeless.
Okay, so all right, biology would prove you wrong.
You graduated from that. You're in a new phase,
A new decade.
a new era. I want to honor Nazan. She wrote something to obey, and we might need some clarification from her on that because it's a little bit out of context. Can you share more about something to obey?
Look at that.
Oh, in the context of "Don't worry, be happy," we have something to obey. I like that thought. Um, I've contemplated the "be happy" for so many years now, decades, that he didn't say try to be happy. He said be happy. And I think that's so interesting because it's almost like for me, my interpretation, it's almost like he's saying it's actually simpler than you're making it, just be happy. And I have so much to be happy about. So if I remember that, it's really helpful.
Today, I don't know, I was reading something on Facebook and it made me laugh. And I said to Diane, under these circumstances, do I get to put something funny on Facebook? And for that reason, I put something funny on Facebook. I'm going to read it to you.
Yeah.
Where am I here? Where am I, Dad?
Do you have to go to your page? Sorry, and this is
Do you need
Okay.
to find it?
No, I got it.
yeah.
So this morning I saw my neighbor talking to her cat. It was obvious she thought her cat understood her. I told my dog. We laughed and laughed.
Yeah, I've heard that one before. That's really
I
funny.
never heard it.
Yeah. Can I share the last thing I brought to share?
Mhm.
Does it help when you can see it, or do you prefer that I just read it?
It's both are good.
Okay, I'm going to share it. So by Baba's grace, I was able to find 3 things to share about longing. This one's called Longing, Wanting, and Attachment by Erich Jaswala. Erich and the other Mandali used to respond to people's letters, and then somebody collected the letters into books and all that. So here's what Erich wrote to Baba Lover. The following is in reply to your query on longing, wanting, and attachment. Longing, wanting, and attachment stem from the original urge of the infinite self to know itself. Longing and attachment go hand in hand with wanting to know oneself. But in the process, multifarious experiences of the opposites generate ad infinitum identifications with the falsity of oneself until it eventually attains truth and realizes the self. To begin with, one longs to have everything, wants to have everything, and is attached to everything. Then a time comes when one longs to have some things, wants to have some things, and is attached to some things. After which one longs to have something, wants to have something, and is not attached to anything except to that something which one wants and longs for. Then there comes a time after many, many multifarious experiences of opposites when one longs for nothing, wants nothing, and is attached to nothing. Ultimately, when one is totally stripped of even the attachment to nothing, wanting even nothing is shed, and true longing dawns for the one, for the truth. This longing is to love, adore, obey, and surrender to the beloved Lord. Such longing is bereft of any wanting and attachment. One now longs truly for the truth that the beloved is, and it is this longing that negates all wanting and attachment. Therefore, longing for the beloved is the only longing worthy of its name, and the only longing where wanting and attachment have no place. And that's Letters from the Mandali. It was Erich, Volume 1, pages 40 to 41. And I just thought that was really well said. I don't know about anybody else, but
I love
it.
that. That's, for me, that really shows you how the evolution of, how longing kind of happens, right? And it's like, you get attached and you're really going after this one desire, and then once you get it, then you realize, well, that's not really what I wanted. What did I really want? It's just this evolution of kind of disillusionment and then surrender of that, type of longing, and then you have the next form of longing. I love that.
So we're at the 1 hour mark. Do we have any more thoughts or feelings or burning desires, or how are we doing?
I'm curious if you have any thoughts on the structure, the way that Baba structured these 12 what are they called?
12 ways of realizing me.
12 ways of realizing me. Have you thought about that at all, or do you have any thoughts on?
Yes, I do. That's a great question, actually. So let me go to the 12 ways. Can you see the 12? Oh, can you see the 12 ways?
I can see
Yes.
it.
Yeah. So these are the 12 ways. So I noticed that longing is the number one, and he put 12 as love. So I don't know, maybe I'm just, crazy, but I have a feeling that longing is kind of key to getting on the path, and that these other things are really important, but that love is the ultimate, and that if you read them all, they're all ways of realizing him. But he says, if you have that love for me that Saint Francis had for Jesus, then not only will you realize me, but you will please me. This is the only one. Love is the only one that has "you will please me" in it. So it's almost like all this, and this is purely me. This has nothing to do with Bob or anybody else. In my mind, it's almost as if all these other ones have some selfishness in it, some kind of like tinge of selfishness, but the love somehow is like the purest and what he really wants, and that'll please him. So I think these are all paths. I think they're all paths, and that eventually they all lead to that love which pleases Baba. That's what I would say. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Well,
but that's
yeah,
what-
it makes sense to me because if you think about it, like there's still an I involved in the other ways, but with love, it's total forgetfulness of the self, right? If you have to obey, then you're still, the I is obeying, right? For the, yeah.
I love that. We're actually a good team, huh?
Well, oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
Maybe we should do this together again. um, does that answer your question, Rehan?
Yeah, sure. I'm always curious. I've been doing a lot of work with Baba's it's at the beginning of discourses. Why can't I remember it right now? Maybe I'm not supposed to talk about it.
7 realities.
7 realities, yeah. Yeah, I've been doing some work with the 7 realities, and just there's a purpose, there's a purposeful way. I feel there's a purposeful way, an intentional way that Baba structured the 7 realities. And so I was just curious if maybe I haven't really worked a lot with these 12 points, but it just
Well, maybe, yeah, maybe next time I'll share a kind of mini vision I've had of these 12. I can do that next time. It'll take a little bit of time to do it properly. And I have a presentation that I make about it. And it has to do with like the vertebrae of a human being, that these 12 are like spiritual vertebrae. But I can show you that next time. It might be a good cliffhanger for next time. Yeah. I want to honor Nazan because I know she's been listening carefully and she's got a voice issue. Do you want to share more, Nazan, before we wrap up? No, Nazan's good. And then Diane and Terry, how are you feeling about all this? You good?
We're good. We're good. We
Okay.
got to sneak in dinner before our next meeting.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll stop the recording here with an Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Does everybody want to do Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai?
Avatar Meher Baba
Jai.
Ki Jai.
Meher
Avatar
Meher Baba Ki Jai.